We now have photorealistic cities in D5 Render 2.11, and this is all thanks to the Cesium plugin integration that's all part of this new version. So what you see right here is a streamed version of the whole world, okay? I know I'm in New York City, but this is actually the whole world being streamed in. This is not a 3D model. If you don't believe me, look at my frame rate. I'm getting over 100 frames per second, and I've got all of New York City. I've got Queens over here. I could go to London. I can go anywhere. And the best part of this is the Google Maps tile set. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've ever looked at the 3D model of Google Maps, this is what's brought in. This is the same exact data set. So what exists in Google Maps also exists in here. So in this video, I'm going to talk about Cesium, why it's so amazing, how to get started with this, how to set it up and everything so you can use this, because honestly, this is like something I've been begging for about a year now. So let's get right into it. I'm going to delete this just so we can start from scratch. So right now my world is empty. All I got to do is go to terrain and I'm going to click Cesium. Okay. I will note that this is going to look different for you because it's going to say you need to set this up with Cesium Ion. And I'm going to explain how to do that. But first I want to show you, how to get this in here. So all you have to do is find a location. You can search here. I just searched for Bryant Park, which is our office location. So I'm going to find this in Manhattan. Okay. Once you do that, it's going to ask you which data set. So these are actually different tiles. You could just bring in OpenStreetMap or terrain or the photorealistic 3D tiles. And this is not the full list. These are just what I selected. And I'll talk a little bit more about how you do that. So I'm going to hit add. Then what you're going to see is you're going to see this geo reference to Cesium and your tile set. As you can see, the world is streaming in, okay? It's not a 3D model. It's not bogging down your file. This is why this is so incredible, because traditionally you would have to go buy something from like TurboSquid for $1,000. It might be outdated, it's super heavy. It's 3ds Max file. You've got to import it. This is all streamed in. So as I move the camera around, more area loads in. So it's pretty incredible. And this supports pretty much any major city in the world. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do to actually change your location is click right here, click reselect, and type in a new city. So I'm going to say Covent Garden in London, and we're going to fly over to London right now. And I'm going to hit update, and you'll see that it's going to bring us over there. It's going to take a couple seconds to load. As you can see, it's streaming in the Google data. And now we've got all the little buildings here. Look at that. We've got the Thames, we've got our buildings, we've got the Shard over here, and we've got the walkie-talkie building over here. So again, any major city is supported. If you're curious what's supported, just go into Google Maps. If you see the 3D, it will exist here, okay? I can't stress that enough. So just for the sake of this, I'm gonna go back to New York, just because I've got some nice renderings I want to show you. Okay, so now that we're back in New York City, I want to go over the settings that you have here. Okay, we already talked about how to change the city. This will zoom in and focus on your geo reference, but what's most important is you actually go here to Google Photo Tiles right here. And once you click this, you're going to see a couple settings here, and I want to explain what these are. So maximum screen space error, this is basically the quality or the resolution of the model. Watch this. It's a scale of 0 to 100. If I type in 100, it's going to start looking very, very blobby. It's going to be more performant. It's going to be easier to load, but obviously it's going to look like blobs. If I switch it to 0, it's going to look much sharper. Once all the details come in, it's going to take longer to open up your files. It's going to take a little bit longer to render because it's higher resolution. 16 is the default. The next setting that you're going to see is range limit. Range limit, this is basically a cutout. So it's basically saying, hey, this is how much area is going to be loaded in. Right now, it says 20,000 by 20,000. If I change the width to 20,000 or 200,000, sorry, it's going to be this long swath. And then height, which I think should actually be labeled as length, will go the other way. So you see that? So if you don't want the whole world streamed in and you just want a specific area, this is how you would constrain that. So here, I'm going to turn that off because I want the whole city streamed in. And the last setting is called LOD transition. And now this one, it's not as apparent as you would think, but I actually highly recommend that you turn it on, and I'll explain why. So once this loads in, pay attention to this area right here, and you're going to see something. As I zoom out, you see how things start to appear and disappear? You see that right there? There's like a harsh transition right there. I'll do it one more time in case you missed it. Okay. It's very, very subtle, I know. Once you turn this on, what it's going to do is use dithering to basically transition from, LOD 3 to LOD 2. And that's just like the LOD quality. 0 is like the highest. And this is all to make it run a little bit nicer. So this is going to seamlessly transition. You see that? It's super, super subtle. I recommend keeping it on. I do wonder if there's like an overhead in terms of like FPS wise, but I would keep it just because it's kind of nice. Because when you're flying around, you don't want those like harsh chop ins. But again, this is crazy because I've got a huge major city here that I would normally spend thousands of dollars to have, that's usually outdated because that's just the nature of New York. And with this being Google, anytime they push an update, the tile set should be updated as well. So really, really excited that this is here. Now I want to talk about how you actually get this working. Because again, like I said, you have to set this up. So there's a couple steps, and it's important you get these right, because if you don't, it just won't work. So you're going to go to cesium.com. You're going to sign up, get started, whatever, make an account. And it's going to drop you into this area where it says My Assets. You'll see here that this is the Google Photorealistic 3D tiles. This is what we were just looking at. If you don't have this, because you just set it up, you need to go to the Asset Depot. You're going to find 3D tiles or any other data, let's say Japan 3D building data, and hit Add to My Assets. I'm going to click that because if I click Photorealistic tiles, it says it's already there, right? But you'll see that I now have the option of bringing that in, and you get a little preview of what is there, which is really, really cool. So this is the whole world. This is just Japan, but this is what's going to get transferred over to D5. So before any of that data gets brought over, you need to build a token or an access token. So you need to go over here to access tokens, and you need to generate a token. Do not use the default token, because you can see here the scopes. See, there's a difference between these that I've made. You're basically missing your read-write options that D5 needs. So you need to hit create token, and I'm going to call this D5 tutorial ×2. This is my second time because my first time I forgot to record audio. So that was cool. So you want to toggle all these guys on. Okay. All of them should be on. And then you're going to hit create. And you're going to get this nice little clipboard button. You can see that I've got all my read writes here. I'm going to hit this, copy the clipboard. And now, before I get into D5, I actually need to go to the D5 team manage page. Okay. So if you are using the Teams plan, because you need a Teams plan for this, sorry, pro users, sorry, community users, this is only for Teams. You need to log into your management portal. This is where you manage your members, billing, and everything. You're going to go over to Cesium. And I'm going to delete my key right now. I'm going to delete this. Okay. And, you don't have to do this right now, but look at what happens when I delete it. I'm going to delete my Cesium. And then I'm going to go here, and it's going to say, you got to set it up. So that's why you need the token, right? So I'm going to go back. I'm going to drop my token in by hitting create, hit add. And now I've got a connection. Now I can go back to D5, Cesium. And look, it even brought the Japan over, the Japan tile set, right? So that's what that is. So you can actually choose all these data sets. So this comes from you. So if yours looks different from mine, it's because I've selected different things. But that's it. So there's a couple of things I do want to point out, okay? One, it actually renders really well. And if you don't believe me, I'll open up my AI post-processor. I did some renderings yesterday, and hopefully these come through. Yep. So this is my raw rendering, right? So you can see, looks pretty good. You're going to have blobby trees. That's just the nature of it, right? But if you use the enhancer, so the enhancer being this guy, if you don't believe me, it's 0.7 and 0.4 texture strength. You're going to get slight improvements to the buildings, to the geometry, to the vegetation. You get some nice little trees here. That looks good. You could do the style transfer trick. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I did a video on it, but AI style transfer, you could click realistic, and then you can do realistic without a reference. So it would be this guy. Just have nothing there, set it to 0.1 and 1, and then you would get something like this. This looks really, really good, but the problem is it does change the geometry a little bit too much. So the Salesforce building, this is very iconic. You can see it does add a little bit more details, but the vegetation looks really good. So, you might need to do some masking, some composition to fix that. But anyways, you have that as an option. So my point is you can create renderings, you can create animations, you can create little diagrams, right? So I've got this awesome, fly through here. I could make it look like an orthographic view by clicking parallel projection. And you would just have to zoom out and look at that. I did notice that it is cutting out some areas, which doesn't look great. So what I recommend until they fix that, just crank up your field of view and look at that. You've got like this thing that could be stylized. It could be diagram, give it some time to load, of course. But again, it's incredible to get all of New York City or a major city in here because this was like near impossible to do before. And this basically responds to all your light settings. So you can change the time of day, change the azimuth. Like it's not like shadows are baked in. So one thing I want to point out, if you are working on a project and like you need your building in here, it seems like this might be a current limitation, but there is no way to remove or upload a building. In their post announcing this, this is the tutorial in case you want to, go through step by step, but pay attention. This token thing is actually wrong. You need to follow what I said in the video and then it'll work. It didn't work for me because I followed it, but you want to do this. You want to add that in. Okay. All right. So anyways, right here. So they're saying this will come at some point. If you're in a rush, you're going to have to get a little creative with section boxes, but I also found another little bug that I've reported. And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm putting a building right here and I want to put my project in, and I grab my section cube. So I put it somewhere there and I make it really, really big and put my display on, make sure that's on. And let me change my camera settings. All right, here's my cube. So my cube is super, super high. If you're wondering why, like my screen looks a little weird, that is frame generation kicked on. That's how I get all these awesome frames. Pros and cons to that, but I do recommend it. I do like having it on because I like the extra frame rate. So I've got this guy here. Let me bring this all the way down here and start chopping. What I've noticed is the section cube does not actually chop your city if it's on the current layer. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, with layers and sections in D5, you can say, hey, affect either all the layers, this guy, or the current layer. And I've noticed it doesn't do that, which is a little bit of a problem when you need to upload your own building. So I'm hoping they fix that soon because I feel like that's kind of a limitation here. So let me grab this and we should be good. Might have gone too far low. Here we go. Look at that. So it's chopping the city, right? And I have it on visibility on layer all, right? So just as like proof here, if I were to put my building here, it would get chopped as well. So watch this. So I'm gonna grab my building, outdoor, building. And let's grab this guy. I've got this guy here. And if I were to put him in, you're gonna see he's gonna go away, right? So this is on my default layer. My section box is on the default layer, and my Cesium reference is also on the default layer. So now here's where things get weird, because now if I select my section cube and switch it to current, it's not chopping the city, it's chopping my design. And so if I move my design to a different layer, it's going to be whole, but the city is still there. So you see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to remove the city so I can put this in the spot, but it's not working right now. So they've been flagged, and I'm sure an official way to upload buildings is coming soon, as we saw from that post, but do know that's there. And then the last thing I want to point out before you get super excited, not to like ruin your day, but if you're uploading, or if you're going through my assets, you'll see this upgrade for commercial use. So like, obviously if you're making money on this, you should upgrade for commercial use. You'll notice it's very expensive. It's $149 per month, and then add the cost of teams for D5. You're looking at over $200 per month if you want to do this workflow. So is it still cheaper than buying all those 3D models that need to be, optimized and everything? Yeah, absolutely. But I do think this is probably going to be out of a lot of people's budgets. But anyways, that's why I do these videos, to point out the pros and cons. But overall, as a feature, it's incredible that we have all of, these major cities and most areas of the world in 3D now, because this was never possible before. And of course, it's running in D5, which is great. So anyways, if you have any questions about this, leave it in the comments. I always get back to you. And now with all the 2.11 updates, I'm trying to go through all the major features one by one. So if there's a specific one you want me to tackle, let me know in the comments and I'll do it. It really helps me out to figure out what people want, because I have a general idea, but it's better if I hear it from you. All right, see you next time.